This shows, Anna, that the White House understands the political position it's in, right? In a way that I don't think they certainly didn't in the last shutdown.
And in a way that they haven't been, honestly. Democrats have not been able to jam Republicans. Good morning, I'm Anna Palmer.
And I'm Jake Sherman.
And welcome to the Daily Punch, brought to you by Punchbowl News. It's Thursday, January 29th, 2026. Let's get in the mix. Here are your Washington headlines of the day. Number one, the latest on government funding. Can Democrats thread the needle with the White House? Number two, what's next for the House? And number three, campaign news in the land of Lincoln. All right, Jake, let's get to it. We are leading Punchbowl News AM with a bunch of news here on how things are shaping up with government funding, Democrats and the White House trying to find a pathway forward here. Give us the latest.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about this. I guess we'll talk about this in two pieces, which is first, overnight, the Senate Democrats and the White House are in discussions to pass 5 spending bills and a stopgap funding bill for DHS funding. And as you said, January 29th and tomorrow's January 30th when funding runs dry. Obviously, this has all been complicated by the horrific, deadly shooting of 2 people in Minneapolis, and ICE and CPB's kind of behavior in Minneapolis has led to this. But under this plan, the Senate would pass the 5 spending bills, would do a CR for DHS. The House, which is out of session, Anna, would have to come back. Obviously, Monday, they're planning on coming back anyway.
So they're ready for it.
I guess they could come back over the weekend. I don't think they would. I don't think there's any reason to. I have to think about this a little bit more, but obviously, shutdowns over the weekend have minimal impact, and the White House and OMB can not put the government into shutdown if they so choose. And this shows, Anna, that the White House understands the political position it's in, right? In a way that I don't think they certainly didn't in the last shutdown.
And in a way that they haven't been, honestly. Democrats have not been able to jam Republicans, and particularly the second Trump administration.
Yeah, for sure. They are negotiating. Now, Senate Democrats put out their list of proposed reforms yesterday, which is tightening the rules for warrants, enforcing a uniform code of conduct for federal officers, barring federal agents from wearing masks, and forcing them to wear body cameras. Clearly, the White House looked at that and said, okay, we could have a negotiation here, because if these were proposals that were completely unpalatable to the White House, they'd just say pound sand and pass the package and, we'll see you in a shutdown. They're not saying that. That is notable. So, Anna, that's kind of where we are. And I think it'll be an interesting day today and tomorrow as they try to get this done.
I think 2 things to think about, just as people are kind of trying to square what's happening, right? Because this is moving fast. The politics have changed dramatically this week. It is just how solidified Democrats are here, right?
Yep.
I mean, when you think about the March shutdown on healthcare, Democrats were not unified on that strategy. There were several Democrats that said they weren't for shutdowns. We are going to have one of those Senator Cortez Masto on FIOT Day today. She has a very different posture this time around. Angus King quoted, "I don't like shutdowns, but it was a matter of conscience. I didn't want to be complicit with what these guys are doing." So that is, I think, one kind of political dynamic and shift. And I think the second, which you lay out really clearly, is the idea that the White House is listening, right? Is the idea that they understand that they have to negotiate in a way that we haven't seen them, and that Democrats aren't putting out policies that are so far, defund ICE. There's some senators, sure, Ed Markey, others who want that to happen, but that's not the list of policy priorities that the Senate Democrats have come forward with.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. So 11:30 today, the Senate, that's kind of the deadline-ish to get some sort of framework in place, right? Because that's when the first procedural vote on the 6-bill funding package is. If Democrats vote for it, that means they are nearing an agreement to strip out DHS, pass the 5-bill package, and send DHS back to the House.
All right, Jake, let's go to the number 2 story of the morning. House Republicans. There is probably no better expert on the House Republican Conference than you are, spending most of your days up there talking to those folks. So as much as right now this is a Senate problem, as soon as the Senate deals with this, it becomes a Speaker Mike Johnson problem.
Oh, yeah. Boy, oh, boy, the House is going to be interesting next week. There is a special election this weekend in Houston to elect the replacement for Sylvester Turner. If Johnson swears that person in, there will be a 1-vote margin for the GOP.
Oof.
And ties don't count, remember. So 218 to 214. My math is not that great, but that means that Johnson has 1 vote to spare on any legislation without needing Democrats' help. The hardline conservatives in the House Freedom Caucus, has made clear it's opposed to renegotiating DHS. Chip Roy says, cool, you want to negotiate DHS? I don't want any funding for sanctuary cities. So, this will be a situation in which the president and the White House have to work overtime to bring people along. And that's challenging. That is really challenging because this is a conference that does go along with Trump on most things. And I'm not saying they won't hear. Don't mistake it. I'm not saying they won't hear. But it's going to take some cajoling. But at least if you have a CR and, you're not doing this under the threat of a shutdown or under, an current shutdown. And I think it's going to be really tricky. But this is, again, as we said in the top, an example of Democrats bringing Trump to the negotiating table and forcing him to act.
I want to say one thing because I think it's
Sure.
important, and it is just something to watch, which is we have not seen the Trump administration engage on votes like this for a while.
Oh,
And
yeah.
we are getting closer and closer to an election. And I think it's just going to be a show, to your point, very powerful, I think can turn votes. I don't think this is he doesn't have the juice maybe to get it done. I just think it is worth watching who is willing to stand up or who's trying to exert power and try to get something for a vote. And then the second part is, does he start making personal calls? We haven't really seen that for quite some time from this administration, and he's going to have to get engaged.
They haven't done it to the level they'll need to, for
Correct.
sure. I mean, they sometimes have to call people on one-off issues because Speaker Mike Johnson can't bring them along in some cases. But on a widespread scale, no. But I'll be honest with you, there are most hardline House Republicans believe that DHS, ICE, CBP is just doing its job. So let's see how that turns out. Next week will be a wild one in the House of Representatives.
All right, let's go to the number 3 story of the morning. The land of Lincoln. We've got some news here. Representative Robin Kelly, the Democrat from Illinois, will begin airing TV ads next week as part of a $2 million blitz in the Democratic primary for the Illinois open Senate seat. She is locked in a 3-way contest for the March 17th primary. That is a lot of dough to be spending in the Chicago market to try to boost herself in this primary, Jake.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating race between Robin Kelly, Raja Krishnamurthy, and Juliana Stratton. Stratton has the support of Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, who has a super PAC spending on her behalf. And a big question is, Pritzker, does he give a huge cash infusion to the Stratton super PAC? We'll have to see. This is one of the states where you have this kind of dynamic. 3 Democrats who are running for a seat that they could occupy for the rest of their natural life. And in a state like Illinois, look at Dick Durbin. He's been there for many, many, many moons. Stratton has spent less than $60,000 on ads, and Krishnamurthy is up on TV a lot.
Whoo, spent some $22 million on ads. That is a cash advantage if you ever heard of one.
Yeah, he's been stockpiling money for this race for a zillion years, it feels like. He is one of the top House fundraisers, and now we see why.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate it. If you like the Daily Punch, share it on social media, tell your friends. Also, check out Flyout Day. It's going to be super timely as we talk about all things DHS, ICE funding, and more. You can hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We appreciate it. Have a great day and stay safe, everybody.